For me, it's been really the centerpiece of my passion for sports cars. My favorite driver was Nigel Mansell. He was Il Leone, the lion, and just his driving style and spirit really captured the imagination. Enzo Ferrari gifted him an F40. Seeing my favorite driver in one of my favorite cars, it was just a fantastic marriage there. The emotions evoked by driving this car actually stop before you get in it. So you settle into the carbon fiber back racing seat, you clip in your racing harnesses, and then you look around and it's very basic information. You've got your tach, speedometer, oil temperature, water temperature, boost gauge, and you've got your fuel level. But the driving experience is anything but basic. From the moment that you twist the ignition key and you press the starter button, the engine fires up. You click that venerable gated shifter into position and you take off. It's a very dynamic burst of power when you put your foot down. Make sure the car's straight when it comes on boost because it comes on very, very quickly. Your vision ahead of you kind of narrows down. The trees around you start to blur. This is the epitome of Enzo Ferrari's outlook of creating something that does not blur the interface between you and the power that can thrust it forward. My name is Jasbir Dhillon. My friends still call me Jazz, and I'm driving a 1989 Ferrari F40. The genesis of the F40 lies in Group B racing. High horsepower, turbocharged cars, big wings, high downforce. And Enzo Ferrari decided that he wanted a piece of that action and developed the 288 GTO. And suddenly in 1986, the FIA basically changed the rules of Group B racing. Enzo very cleverly decided, well, we can turn this into something special for the road for the 40th anniversary of Ferrari. They wanted this car ready for July of 1987, which would be the 40th anniversary of their first road car. It was a 125 Sport. Enzo was 49 years old at the time when he built his first car. I think it's a classic example that you can do something in your midlife really special if you want to. There was a scant 13 months to develop the entire car. So Nicola Materazzi was in charge of the drivetrain and the gearbox. The design house Pininfarina was to pen the body. And they did a masterful job. The enduring legacy of the F40 is a shape that you can't forget. Very dramatic lines, angular designs, wings, inlets, and the whole thing came together in a very fluid design that was cutting edge for its time. One of the chief tasks was to not create something overly complicated. What Enzo wanted was something that was very elemental. Powerful engine on a light car and basically allow the driver to really experience the full feedback of what the road's giving you. Nobody does red like Italians. It's absolutely beautiful to look at. And then you get in and drive it, and it takes you to the next level of enjoyment. You've got very little sound deadening between you and the engine that's right behind your ears. And the way the turbos come on the old style wastegate, it's like a cobra hissing behind you. The steering is unassisted, but as you go faster, it becomes lighter in your hands, so it basically dances. It's a car that when you throw into corners and you engage, it just delivers feedback on every level, and boy does it deliver. My wife and I, we took my first Ferrari to Cavallino for the 20th anniversary of the F40. I met a Middle Eastern fellow. 2 weeks later, I get a phone call from his secretary, and it turned out it was from the Crown Prince's office in Bahrain. And they were going to have the inaugural F1 race that year at Sakhir in Bahrain. And so they flew the F40 over, and the highlight for me was Jackie Ickx was the guest of honor. And I'll never forget, he got in the F40 with me. watching a car like this being thrown around in the hands of a master is a very, very special experience. I remember distinctly getting out after 3 laps, and my wife said my face looked like the Joker, I was just frozen in a smile. But watching him going into corners and preloading the turbos under braking so that when he came out he was on boost, it was absolutely incredible. And the most amazing thing was that it had never run cooler. The NACA ducts, or the NACA ducts, came about in 1945 from the efforts of the National Advisory Council for Aeronautics, which was the precursor to NASA. What they discovered was that the NACA duct maintained uninterrupted flow for cooling applications, and so it was perfect for the F40. The turbos on the car are small IHI turbos. They're basically made by a Japanese company called Ishikawajima Heavy Industries, hence IHI. They started making turbos in Japan in 1939. It's a 2.9 liter engine, makes 478 horsepower, 425 foot-pounds of torque. The turbochargers are mated to bare intercoolers. It's always interesting to me that they used American duct technology for cooling, German intercoolers, and Japanese turbos. So they weren't afraid to sort of mix and match and come up with the best combination. When you really get an appreciation of how the power is put to the ground is when you open the rear cowl and you kind of look down at the tires, and you realize that those 335 spec tires are putting a massive paw print down, and they're getting all the power down. In Sikh culture, it's really important to run important purchases by your parents. It's just one of those things where you kind of know that they're going to say yes, but it's a mark of respect. And my dad was always a very encouraging type, and he would always basically rubber stamp anything that I wanted to do. And my mother was always a very conservative lady. And for the first time ever, my dad was like, maybe you should think about investing it in something else. I'll never forget, my mother saw my reaction. My mother, she had followed my passion from collecting magazines every month as a kid. She goes, I can see the passion in your eyes for this particular car. Just don't look back. You watch, it'll bring you great fortune and great luck and great experiences, And I still have the picture of the day that car was delivered. And my mum is holding my eldest daughter. You can just see the wing behind her, And it was a very, very memorable day. Sadly, 2 months later, she passed away unexpectedly. It's a loss that still stings to this day. But I never forgot her words and her encouragement, and it really turned out to be true. The kids love this car because it's so loud in there. For them, it's basically legal hooliganism. They love that. So what better time to have with Dad than in the car, getting up on the boost. My son always is egging me on, so you can hear the wastegate and everything. My eldest daughter, she's seen an F40 from day one, so I think it has a very special place in her heart as well. And Mum was right. It was a car that took us all over the place, and we met wonderful people and wonderful friends and wonderful experiences that we'll never forget. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again, it really is the best aspect of this passion, is who you meet. Really the highlight.